My name is Jordan Ellis. I'm 29 and I live in Austin, Texas. By day, I'm a software engineer at a mid-size tech company. But once the sun goes down, I switch roles. I'm an indie musician. The reason I picked this house wasn't the kitchen, the backyard, or the cheap rent. It was the garage. I turned it into my own recording studio, guitars on the walls, a mixing desk, monitors, microphones. Every single piece of gear was a milestone. The guitar I bought with overtime pay, the mixer from my first bonus, the laptop I treated like gold because it held my songs. That garage was more than just a room. It was my sanctuary, a place where I could stay up all night layering tracks, tweaking sounds until they felt perfect. No judgment, no interruptions, just music and me. My job covered the bills, left me with some savings, and gave me time to create. I'd started uploading songs on Spotify. The audience was small, but every single stream felt like a heartbeat for my dream. Friends would joke, "Jordan, you're like two different people, half coder, half rock star." And honestly, I liked that balance. My life wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, hopeful, and in rhythm, like a song I'd written line by line. What I didn't know was that in just a few weeks, that rhythm would be shattered by an uninvited guest. It was a Saturday morning. I'd just come back from grabbing breakfast tacos, classic Austin ritual, when I noticed something strange. The garage door was half open. My garage, my studio, my sanctuary. Inside, standing in the middle of my recording space, was Amber, my 24-year-old cousin, unpacking paint brushes, canvases, and jars of acrylic like she was setting up shop. Amber, what are you doing here?" I asked, still holding the bag of tacos. She spun around, big smile, as if I should be thrilled. "Hey, Jordan, surprise, I'm moving in for a while. Isn't this space perfect for an art studio?" Before I could even process that, my phone buzzed. It was my Aunt Amber's mom. The moment I answered, she didn't waste time. "Jordan, Amber just went through a tough breakup. She dropped out of art school and she needs a place to reset. You've got a stable job, a roof over your head, and that big garage. Let her stay. Let her create." Her words weren't a request. They were a command wrapped in family guilt. I tried to explain. This was my workspace, my music studio, not a guest room. But my aunt cut me off. "Jordan, you've always been the responsible one. Amber needs you right now. Don't be selfish." And just like that, it was decided. Amber dragged her suitcase onto my couch and spread her art supplies across the very floor where I recorded my songs. The smell of paint started mixing with the scent of old guitar strings. That night, as I stared at my now-invaded studio, one thought kept hammering in my head. They didn't ask. They just took. The first week was chaos. My once pristine garage studio turned into a cluttered art loft. Paint splatters on the floor, canvases stacked against my amps, brushes left in coffee mugs. Amber acted like it was hers. She'd stay up until 3 a.m. blasting music with her friends while I was trying to sleep. My guitars became props for her TikTok videos, and every time I asked her to clean up or keep it down, she'd roll her eyes like I was the annoying roommate. But the real gut punch came at Sunday dinner. My aunt and uncle sat across from me, arms folded like prosecutors. "Jordan, you're paying way below market rent for that house," my uncle started. "Now that Amber's living there too, it's only fair you chip in more." I blinked. "Wait, more? You're asking me to pay extra so Amber can live rent-free in my space." My aunt gave me the guilt trip look I knew too well. "Amber's an artist. She just needs time to find herself. You've got a stable income. Don't you think family should support each other?" There it was again, that phrase. Family should support each other. But somehow, family always meant me giving and Amber taking. That night, I sat in my room, staring at the walls while the sound of Amber's laughter and clinking glasses echoed from the garage. I'd worked for years to build that space, that life. and now I was paying for the privilege of watching it slip away. For the first time, the thought crossed my mind. Maybe it's time to stop playing by their rules. I didn't argue that night. I didn't slam doors, didn't shout back, didn't beg them to understand. Instead, I went quiet, because silence gave me room to think. The next morning, while Amber was still asleep on my couch, I pulled out my lease agreement. I read every line, every clause like it was a map to freedom. And there it was. After the first year, the lease was month to month. All I needed was a 30-day notice to walk away clean. I checked my savings. Years of discipline, coding by day, producing music by night, had built a solid cushion. Enough for a new place, a deposit, and even the moving truck. That's when I started planning, not with anger, with precision. I researched rentals downtown. Smaller, sure. Pricier per square foot, yeah. But one listing caught my eye, an apartment near a co-op music studio, a space where local musicians rented shared equipment, mixing booths, even rehearsal rooms. It wasn't just a new place to live. It was a chance to plug straight into Austin's indie scene. That night, as Amber laughed on FaceTime in my garage, telling her friends about her new studio, I was filling out an application for my new apartment. For the first time in weeks, I felt something crack through the frustration. Not anger, not resentment. Freedom. They thought they had me trapped. They thought I'd always be the responsible one who swallowed his pride. But I had just made a silent promise to myself. I'll leave. And when I do, they'll finally see the cost of taking me for granted. Once the decision was made, everything changed. I stopped wasting energy fighting Amber about dirty mugs or late-night noise. I stopped arguing with my aunt and uncle about family obligations. Outwardly, I looked calm. Inside, I was planning every detail of my escape. I picked my move date, the weekend of my cousin's art showcase. Amber would be gone, parading her creativity to friends, while my aunt and uncle were scheduled to visit relatives out of town. That gave me a 48-hour window. I called in reinforcements, 6 close friends, 2 pickup trucks, and 1 rented van. We turned it into a mission. Operation Take Back My Life. I created a full inventory of my stuff, studio gear, furniture, even the mini-fridge I'd bought for late-night sessions. Every item was mine, and I had receipts saved in the cloud to prove it. If my family tried to claim otherwise, I was ready. I signed the new lease, put down the deposit, scheduled utilities to switch over the day I left, even arranged for my mail to be forwarded. Every night while Amber lounged in the garage pretending to be an artist, I was packing boxes in my bedroom quietly, one by one, and the more I packed, the lighter I felt. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for permission. I wasn't asking for fairness. I was taking it. The moment I taped the last box shut, I whispered to myself, "They think I'll never leave. Wait until they come back to an empty house." The trap they set for me was about to snap shut, but on them, not me. The move went smoother than I ever imagined. By 4:00 p.m., Saturday, the house that had been mine for years looked like a hollow shell. No guitars on the wall, no desk, no couch, no fridge humming in the corner. Just bare floors and echoing walls. I left the keys on the counter with a note. I gave my 30-day notice, paid the last month's rent, and took what's mine. The house is yours now. Good luck. Then I locked the door one last time and walked away. That night my phone blew up. First came the texts. "Amber. What the hell, Jordan? Where's all the furniture? Where's the studio?" Then my aunt called, voice trembling with fury. "Jordan Ellis, how dare you do this to family? We came home to an empty house. Your cousin has nowhere to sleep." And then my uncle, cold and sharp. "This is unacceptable. That furniture stays with the property. You've broken the lease. Call me back before we involve lawyers." I let the calls go to voicemail. I sat in my new apartment, smaller, yes, but mine, surrounded by boxes and my friends celebrating with pizza and beer. Later, When the noise died down, I called my uncle back. His voice was full of controlled rage. "Explain yourself." I stayed calm. "I gave proper notice. I paid the last month, and every single thing I moved belonged to me. I have receipts. Nothing in that house was yours." Silence. He hadn't expected me to come armed with facts. Finally, he tried guilt. "Amber is crying. Your aunt is beside herself. Is that what you wanted, to hurt your family?" I didn't flinch. No, what I wanted was respect. What I wanted was for my boundaries to mean something. What I wanted was not to be taken for granted. If that hurts, maybe it's because you finally see what I've been carrying. On the other end, I could hear Amber wailing in the background, my aunt demanding the phone. But I'd said what I needed to say. "This isn't revenge," I told him. "This is me choosing my life." And then, for the first time in years, I hung up on him. The silence in my new place wasn't empty. It was freedom. The first night in my new apartment, I slept on my own mattress surrounded by half-open boxes. No fancy decorations, no polished setup, just me, my gear, and silence. And yet I'd never felt richer. The next few weeks were revealing. Amber had no choice but to face reality. With the house stripped bare and no one to bankroll her studio lifestyle, she finally got a job at a local gallery. It wasn't glamorous, but it was the first time she'd ever worked for her own money. My aunt, who had always spoken to me like I was the family's safety net, suddenly sounded different on the phone, less demanding, more cautious. My uncle even admitted, half grumbling, that maybe they'd spoiled Amber a little too long. That was as close to an apology as I'd ever get. Meanwhile, my life took off in ways I hadn't expected. The co-op studio downtown became my new creative hub. I collaborated with other indie musicians, and one of my tracks ended up on a Spotify playlist, pulling in more streams in a month than I'd had in a year. My boss noticed my sharper focus at work too. I wasn't dragging around exhaustion from late-night family drama anymore. Most importantly, I discovered something I'd been missing all along: the weightless confidence of true independence. I learned that love without boundaries isn't love, it's exploitation. And that sometimes the most loyal thing you can do for family is to stop enabling their worst habits. Months later, Amber and I met for coffee. She looked different, simpler clothes, less makeup, a little humility in her posture. "I didn't think you'd really leave," she admitted. None of us did, but it was kind of badass. For once, we talked like equals. She even admitted she was saving up for her own place. And when she said, "I'm sorry for taking advantage of you," I believed her. Thanksgiving rolled around that year. We sat around the table again, but the dynamic had shifted. They no longer saw me as the responsible cousin who would always bend. I wasn't bending anymore. And as I raised my glass, I realized this wasn't just a victory over them. It was a victory for me, because the greatest revenge wasn't walking out with all my furniture. It was walking into a life where I finally owned myself.